Following is an excerpt from a conversation I had with a Clyde Drexler collector named David, who goes by drumdrexler22 on Instagram. At the end of this conversation, I asked David to take me through his top 3 cards in his collection. I've added some visuals to go along with the audio for the sake of this video here, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so as we start to wind things down here, I want to give you a chance to talk about a few of your personal favorites, because we spent all this time talking about your amazing Drexler collection and your time with Clyde Drexler recently. But I want you to tell me about your 3 favorite cards and a little bit about how you acquired them. And I think you might have some honorable mention as well. That's fine. I'm not going to prevent you from doing that. So let's go ahead and see what you got here.
Yeah, sounds good. So, I do have 2 honorable mentions. It wouldn't be fitting to have a top 5 or top 3 list without mentioning the card that I mentioned about earlier, the 04, 05 Ultimate Signature patches. I'm showing you one right now, but I believe I have 5 from this set at this point. And, like I said, it's just that nostalgia card for me that I remember looking at it on eBay. So if anyone has any of those or knows of the whereabouts of the rest of them, I'm trying to hoard the entire set.
How many are there?
25.
25. Okay. You've got a pretty good jump on it.
Yeah, so got them for a variety of places. The one I just showed you was, I believe, a Probstein auction a couple years ago. I got one from a blowout deal, and then a couple, I think, from various, Instagram users that made me aware of them at some place in time, or just, I'm sure, as you and many other collectors that listen, you have a Rolodex of cards, so you know where they are, and we'll check in every couple of months to make sure they're available or not. So I put that probably number 5. This is a tough one because this one could either go number 1 for me or number 4 for me, no in between. But I decided to give them the honorable mention where they are my 2012, 2013 Noble nameplates. I have both of the letter E's. And actually, I don't know if you remember this, but Kyle, you were actually the one that pointed me in the direction of one of them when it first hit eBay a couple years ago.
Okay.
So
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so the first letter E I picked up, it was probably my first big adult purchase when I got my first shop teaching. And then 2 years to the date, with maybe a month of separations when I picked up the second one. I know how many letters? I believe there's 7 letters in the last name. 1, 2, yep. So I have 2 letter E's. I know where the R, X, L, and R are. They're all with the same collector. So the only one that has yet to surface is the first letter in the name. So if anyone ever sees the first letter, obviously I'd love a shot at it.
I'm sorry, don't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah, go for it.
But I gotta ask because you know where the others are at. So I'm assuming they're not going anywhere.
I'm assuming not either. So I don't know of the person, but it's kind of like a friend of a friend.
Okay.
Where, the person who actually has them was actually gifted them by the person that I've chatted to. And he actually also has a good majority of the Hakeem Olajuwon letters. So I have the letter J, and the letter J isn't going anywhere because I assume one day he'll want to add that to his collection. And I hope that maybe we can get a deal done where, we can complete both the last names in one way or the other.
All right. So so those are your honorable mentions. How about your number 3?
So for my number 3 is the card that we mentioned about earlier. It's 2018-2019 National Treasures, the Retro Materials 1-of-1 patch. And from what I remember from our conversation a few years ago was that this patch came from an emblem on the warm-up jacket the year after the Trailblazers, I guess, won the Western Conference and went to the NBA Finals. So the patch shows the W, the E, and the S in West.
I think we even matched it up to with the stitching and everything. I think we found the exact warm-up that Panini bought via, I don't remember which auction house, but via one of the major auctions, maybe Gray Flannel.
Yeah, I want to say that too. And it's funny too, because, and we've talked about this on and off over the last couple of years, very little pieces of that warm-up jacket have popped up in cards. Like off the top of my head, the 1-of-1 from that. There was a patch autograph set, maybe from that same year in National Treasures, where I believe they used those because the red looks very similar. And then there's a booklet card of Grant Hill, Shaq, Kobe, and Clyde Drexler that I think the patches were utilized from that warm-up jacket as well. But as far as that specific emblem, that's the only one I've actually seen where they use the emblem.
Well, get ready for it. If this Fanatics thing ends up coming to fruition, then Panini's going to be liquidating a lot of that stuff. You might get some nice jumbo patches out of it.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because, for the longest time, the Clyde Drexler market, as far as the patch autographs, have been drying up. So I want to say for the last maybe 2 or 3 years, if you were seeing a substantial patch autograph, it was from the previous years of flawless and immaculate. It wasn't anything current. That has changed since, I want to say, not this most recent release of 101 that came out this week, but last year's they started putting, some smaller rocket patches in. And now you're starting to see with like National Treasures this past year and one this year, you're starting to see, I guess they bought one of the Rockets jerseys. So I'm really excited to see how the patch autographs from that set come out this year, because I have a feeling you and I talked about that they might have also picked up a jersey or a jacket that had the 50th greatest logo on it. So they've shown up on, like, I've seen maybe 2 cards with those, but they haven't been available.
All right. Well, maybe those will come your way here. That might be a 2023 goal with the cooperation of Panini. I know you can't control that entirely. All right. Number 2. What's your number 2?
Yeah, so number 2 is the card I mentioned a little bit earlier. A friend from Australia sent me this, in the summer. So when I made my most recent list, I was looking for something with a Rockets patch logo. This card is from Impeccable of this year, 2021-22. It's the 1-of-1 autograph that has the team tag that is that Rockets logo that originally got me into wanting to collect Clyde Drexler in the first place. So it's an awesome card, beautiful card. Was really happy that the person shared it with me and that the person who pulled it was willing to work with me, because it took me a little bit of time to come up with the funds for it.
So we'll make sure these get on social media, by the way. I know you've already posted some of them, but we'll make sure and kind of repost them. The thing I like about that copy is that they framed that tag. So it's not like it's in there crooked or, sideways or anything like that, but they actually took the time to frame it and they did it right. Looks great with that foil.
Yeah, for sure. I have another one that's from a year of National Treasures, but like you mentioned, with some of these, sometimes the window isn't too big and it cuts something off. So this one has a more full logo than the one that I originally owned.
Perfect. All right, number 1, let's hear it.
Number 1 for me probably has to be, like, as any collector, especially if you're collecting a player, you always want to be able to own a logo man. So it's what year is it? I believe it's 2011 National Treasures Colossal Logo Man auto numbered 4. Like I said, I go back and forth between wanting to make this, my number 1 card, because as a kid, I always wanted to own one, or the nameplates, because, the nameplates are actually more rare in full from what I've done in my research, not counting the President's Choice cards. If we're talking just NBA license, the only year that Clyde Drexler's been like in a full nameplate set was that 2012 year. So technically there's only 7 full NBA licensed letters. But, just that year in National Treasures alone, there were 4 logo men, and that's not counting the other years in sets. That one took a while for me to finally acquire for the PC. So I think it's fitting to put that as number 1, as, that chase card that I was always looking for.